My name is Larry Hryb. I was at Xbox for 23 years, worked on all the consoles, Xbox Live, and multitudes of games, and I am excited. I'm now at Unity right now, running their community and advocacy, and I'm excited to be here at Slice, my first time at Slice. I'm excited to be here. So we're going to talk about survival in indies. One of my favorite parts about working at Xbox was working with the independent developers over the many years. And I get to talk to some now and work with some. So we're going to go right down. I think you can kind of see who we have here. We've got Nick and Andrea and Tyler. I'm going to have them introduce themselves. You can read a little bit about them up there, but why don't you guys get started, and then we'll get into the discussion.
Yeah. Hey, everyone. I'm Nick. I'm the studio head at AgroCrab. We're local. Shout out Seattle Indies. AgroCrab's been around for 6 years, and I've been a game developer before that as well. And in regards to like survival in the indie scene, I've kind of seen like all different angles on it, I feel like. Starting out just struggling, not really knowing anyone or how to make a good game. And with every game getting a bit further into the industry of learning publishing and funding and all these different marketing approaches. So we started out with Going Under, then there was another Crab's Treasure, and most recently Peak. Any fans?
Let's give it up for Peak.
Peak in the audience.
Congratulations on that.
Appreciate it.
Woo! Thank you. Next we have...
Oh, I'm Andrea Roberts. I am a game designer, artist, and one half of Wonderbelly Games. So I spent a decade working over at Microsoft on big AAA games like Fable 3. And then I left and founded Wonderbelly Games with my husband. And we make tight, cheeky strategy games. Our first game, Round Guard, we released on Apple Arcade and just about every other platform you can think of. We supported that for a few years, released it on a few more platforms you probably didn't think of, and then we just announced this summer the next title we're working on, which is Arcane Eats. It's a fantasy cooking roguelike deck builder. Yeah, thank you. So I have just come back from showing it off at Gamescom in the Indie Arena booth. I'm almost on this time zone, I think, and I'm going to be showing it over at PAX Rising and the Seattle Indie Expo later this weekend.
Thank you very much. All right, Andrea. Tyler?
I'm Tyler. I'm a little different here, I think, because coming from AAA, I started in games, joined Riot to help fix the Air client, if anybody's old enough to know League of Legends history. And too little, too late, we replaced it. And basically went to GDC my first year, I think that year, and decided, coming back from like the awards ceremonies, that indie's where I wanted to be. Had also seen Indie Games, the movie. So I have always been building stuff on the side. I built, a tech, not a TCG, but a tile game, competitive tile game was with runes and like some other, but I'm still in the getting things figured out and finding my footing. So basically Riot Games for a while, Wizards of the Coast, where I helped shepherd Magic the Gathering Arena out into the wild for those of you who like to lose your money to trading cards. And then during that time there, I pitched, what about digital Dungeons and Dragons? And so at some point I left with the advent of AI. I realized there was potential here to maybe solve some of the unsolvables in this space where you could really digitize this experience. And so the last couple of years, I've been trying to get Wanderheart off the ground. And this is where I'm a little different, is we went the VC route. We tried to get this thing funded. Two founders from leadership at Wizards of the Coast who were going to build digital D&D in AI. Sounds like a perfect VC match. It was perfectly terrible timing for us in the games industry. So we'll be talking about survival, and I'll definitely have my story.
Thank you very much, Tyler. Well, so you can see we have incredible talent up here on the stage. Hopefully we can learn a little bit. I will say this. We're going to go probably about 20 minutes, then we would, because we don't have that much time today, I would like to have some Q&A if you're interested at the end for about 10 minutes or so. So just be prepared for that. We'll bring a microphone out. I want to jump right into the discussion right now. And just to let you all know out there, we have met once before, mostly backstage, so we haven't chatted that much. I want to get in the Wayback Machine a little bit. And if you could, each one of you could go back a decade or so and travel back in time and tell yourself something to help you be more successful now, what would that be? And as you look out and see some of these folks that are at the beginning of their journey or mid-journey, you are all been very successful. What would you go back and tell your younger self?
This is controversial. So I just turned 30, 10 years, thanks. 10 years ago, I'd be 20, I'd be still in college. And I'd tell myself to drop out. I just think if you're trying to be indie, like that is its own path, and you're gonna learn the most by doing it, like practicing, making games, shipping games, networking, meeting like-minded people. And I will say I found a lot of those like-minded people at college where, I still, know them today, and it's awesome that I've met them. But the academics, nah.
Controversial indeed.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know. I've been great. Like, I don't have any other things I would tell myself. Like, everything's worked out.
All right, Andrea.
Yeah, sure. I totally agree with just make something. I think is definitely the core. Thank you. Okay, yeah, there you go. The core advice I would give myself. For me, 10 years ago, I was at Microsoft, and I spent a lot of that time there working on my own hobby projects, developing my skills, working at Microsoft, learning a ton about how games were being made, seeing the end process of all of that, and like most importantly, getting paid through all of that, which was a wonderful start for me coming into indie games, having like a nest egg and a lot of practice under my belt. But ultimately, the thing that gave me the confidence to go forward into indie games was the fact that I had done so many small projects on my own and done them to completion, which I think is the piece that a lot of us miss. So.
Tyler.
All right, for me, it's going to be a little bit different from the dropout of college, though I kind of did as well. It's the stick with it even through other career paths, even through other routes and paths. I am a father of 4, mortgage, it's just, I would always look from the outside, looking in through the glass at the indies who could just cruise. They, lived in mom and dad's basement, and they could just build all day long, and I'd be so envious. And there's a couple of stints where I'd left full-time employment to go indie. I was going to do it this time, and had to go back. And to me, this is what the survival story is all about: is you keep going, your time will come. And that's what I would tell myself, is just keep building, keep making things, because every time I look back, I'm like, I was so naive. There's no way I would have been successful back then. And then I try it again, and then I'm convinced I'm going to be successful this time. Eventually, it's going to click, right? You guys can back me up.
Yeah. Yes.
Right? All right, okay, good.
That was it.
That's great.
Keep going.
So a lot of different stuff there. We're going to talk about indie survival in 2025. You guys are all, you're now independent developers. You all are out there as well. We're in a really difficult time right now for indies. What do you individually see? Again, we haven't talked about this prior to hand. What do you individually see as some of the biggest 1 or 2 challenges coming up over the next 12 to 24 months for independent developers? Not just your studios and yourselves and your staff, but the industry writ large.
I could go.
Tyler, go ahead.
Number 1, I think, is fear. You have fear of AI. You have fear that there's nobody there buying games. You have fear that the marketplace sucks, because it does in a lot of places. You have fear. And this fear can be paralyzing and make you not work on the thing you want to work on. And you're now doom scrolling, and you're worried about other things. And we can talk about this later, but I think you guys are in the best position ever. AI can be an empowering factor, not something to hold you back or replace you. The fact that other teams are failing and their jobs are getting scarce in the games industry means that there's opportunity for new opportunities for new teams, for new studios. So I think the world is still going to play games, and it's going to be made by you guys. Sorry, that was fear. It was the downside. But
There's a downside. Okay, thank you.
Definitely. I was going to say, I mean, the fear of the indie apocalypse has been rolling for, I don't know, I guess ever since I've been in indie, and, people are still making games. But I think that one of the hardest things right now is to run a studio that's larger than a couple of folks. I think there was a lot of money that was coming out in the last few years. A lot of people maybe shipped their first indie success and were in a good position to be able to build up. I feel lucky that I was in a place where I wasn't looking for a larger team. I don't think it was necessarily a clever business decision on my part as so much as a selfish one, that I was really excited about being a tiny team. But I think that right now it has worked in my advantage, because the funding out there for large teams, I think is a big struggle.
Well, first I want to say you're totally right. Like, before Peak came out, we were looking for funding for a 12-person studio. Yeah. A budget of like $3 million. Those don't exist right now. Yeah. So even after the success of Another Crab's Treasure and us having the following that we have, like, it was so hard to have those conversations, and we got really lucky that Peak, ended up being good. But if that hadn't happened, I didn't know what we were going to do as a studio. We were in a really tough spot. So I would absolutely recommend exactly what you said: stay small, right? On top of that, I want to add to the discussion on the indie-pocalypse, because we've heard about this since like 2016, and it's absolutely true. But the problem is there's too many good games, there's too many great games, and you're not just competing with those other games. You're competing with Fortnite, you're competing with Netflix, you're competing with going outside and touching grass. So what makes your game great, and what makes it so that people find out about it? Our solution at AgroCrab has always been to build up our own platform, right? Because otherwise you're at the whim of the Jeff Keighlys of the world, waiting to see if they're going to put you in their showcase, or you're going to get this news article, or XYZ streamer is going to play your game. Excuse me. And that's a tough situation to be in. I think it just means it's a dice roll, right? So we've always worked really hard to do our own social media, do TikTok, Twitter, and again, another reason why things are tougher than ever, those places are getting more competitive too. Twitter sucks now. No one really uses Blue Sky. It's like, where do you market?
Where we go, right?
Yeah, where do we go? So for us, TikTok, YouTube, Instagram Reels, those have still proven successful. And if you can also get good at using those tools, you won't have to rely on the gatekeepers of the industry as much.
It's interesting you say that, because as somebody who worked at Microsoft for 20 years and was, I would work with developers like yourself to bring you on our stage at our showcases. It was always the best time was when we got to talk to the smaller developers. But each one of you talked about there's so many more games out now because games is democratized. I hate using that term because it's overused. But by the same token, media has arisen where you can reach 1 million people so quickly. So, the good news is we have all these games. The good news is we have all this marketing. The bad news is everybody's doing the same thing. So how do you go through each of your titles and this is talking about marketing, how do you break out and become interesting and really resonate with this audience to play the algorithm so you don't have to rely on Keighley?
You kind of just have to be funny. Like, you have to be funny, and you have to kind of understand the culture of the platform you're getting into, which means you have to use it. Unfortunately, you have to give yourself TikTok brain rot.
You got to play the game.
You got to play the game.
Yep.
In order to reach those people that are also on that platform, right?
Yeah.
That's at least what we've done. So yeah, I don't know.
I mean, I think AgroCrab, you guys are geniuses at social media, and
it's all shout out Paige.
Not all of us are that good at it, and so I think for us putting the effort in, we try to use those platforms as a way to keep our message out in the community. But I think it's important to know what your own strengths are. And for me, it's not my Twitter game. I think that we have used the strategy of finding those influencers, maybe not Jeff Keighley necessarily, but like going to events like that to meet and connect with people who are out there streaming, making YouTube content, people who are much better at it than I am, and finding what it is that they want, connecting with them, bringing them into our Discord community. Like, I think we've put a lot of our effort into how we connect one-on-one with folks, how we find those people, and let them do the magic that we're not as good at.
I'm going to agree with that one. You take your character sheet and you put all your skill points up on, like, heap them up on your dexterity score, whatever score that you're good at, rather than trying to spread them out evenly, because then you're just
No peanut butter.
great at everything. Yeah. So for me, I'm a software engineer. I was a art major turned software engineer, always creative and trying to solve problems, and maybe socially awkward, or at least social media awkward. And so what was always important to me was I was always maybe a little bit of a perfectionist, or I don't know, in my mind an elitist. I'm like, I got to build something that's not like anyone else. Like, I can't release this Tetris game. Tetris has existed forever. I'm just stealing, and I got to be like really, I don't know, romantically artistic and da-da-da. So for me, like, finding something that was really exciting, that wasn't being done, which was this, tabletop role-playing made digital, except now it's being done by everybody who has, can wrap ChatGPT with with interface. But to me, this is still something that is green pasture. I can go chase this, and I know that people will love it, and people are loving the thing that I'm playing with, that I'm building, because people have loved it for 50 years. And so I've always chased storytelling as well, since I've been in the games industry. And so just taking all these pieces, I'm like, okay, I've got my dexterity, low on intelligence, better not put anything in there, like high charisma, okay, not that. But anyway, like, put everything into all my skill points towards this thing. I am building the project that was made for me as a person, and I'm hoping that will end up paying off. We'll see.
Can I build off that analogy?
Absolutely.
Okay. So your stat sheet, right? Like, that's something you build. So if you're just starting out in the industry especially, you probably have like no points put in anything. Put 1 point in marketing, please. I beg you. And like you said, it doesn't have to be you that's doing the social media and trying to be funny. If you can put that in the game, they'll do it for you, right? Like, what we found with Peak is we're probably 1% of the engagement online with Peak. Like, other people's video content is what spreads the most and spread like wildfire, because it's an inherently funny game, and it creates funny moments. So you can slip on banana peels. We just added that because, like, it doesn't help you win the game, but we knew it would do well on TikTok, and we left bugs in the game because it would be funny. So just like thinking in that way, like, how can I make my game shareable is gonna help.
It's also interesting you brought something up. Is you embraced the I don't want to call it blemishes, but
You can call it blemishes.
you embrace the bugs.
Yeah. Well, it's also like, then you don't have to fix the bug. You save some time. Yeah.
Everybody wins.
Yeah. But I mean, one example is, okay, so when you die in Peak, you immediately turn into a skeleton, right? And I was too lazy to add like ragdoll physics to the skeleton. So most of the time you're on the ground already, your skeleton's on the ground. But if another player's carrying you and you die on their back, you skeleton in midair. And you're just like, it's funny.
It's rigor mortis, yeah.
Yeah, it's rigor mortis. It doesn't need to be fixed.
Right.
It doesn't need to be right.
Well, and I think some of that authenticity is what people enjoy about indie games. It is the bugs, it is the like little bits of ourselves that get put into the game,
Yeah.
that people respond to.
Tyler, you had something to add.
Yeah, so we have the game master is narrating the story, and then every once in a while you do something and he says, okay, roll a d20 for me, and you get a UI to roll. After so long in the conversation, there were some things that some choices we had made in the tech that after so long in the conversation, the game master sort of hallucinates. You guys have played with AI a little bit. And he starts to tell you to roll a d20, but he's not telling the system to roll a d20. And so you don't get the UI. And we've never fixed that because it's the player's favorite feature, bug, where suddenly they're like, oh, I roll a 27. And it's like, okay, you roll a 27, you clock that goblin in the face. Anyway, yeah, sometimes those bugs you embrace and you leave them in because players love it. They feel like they're breaking the game.
Tyler, you've talked a little bit about it here, and a couple of others have alluded to it. You know, AI is a huge thing right now that's sitting in front of us. It has been, you know, circling us for the past few years. Tell us how you're using AI, each of you, in your titles or in your organization or in your business.
When I first, it was a shiny new toy that I just wanted to play with early on. It was not very long before a friend had a very visceral, emotional reaction to it that like scared me a little bit, and I started looking more deeply into the topic and realized this isn't something that you can just take lightly. You have to understand all the implications, social, you know, person, like the gameplay itself. AI can sometimes be used as the thing to like try and solve good game design. It doesn't work. AI is sometimes used to solve like replacing core assets or like reducing workforce and things. Oftentimes it doesn't work. So we are building a game that's AI unlocks our ability on gameplay, complete open choice. But we also have like what we call creator first principles. Our writing comes from human authorship. Our art, we're not touching AI art with a 10-foot pole right now, probably for a long time, and it would be only if the artists have the tools that they are still creating, the ones creating the art. And then we're building a UGC platform where everybody, like AI becomes a distribution tool and a scaling factor for people, for us, all of us, and for our players to share content and make money as opposed to taking away opportunities. And so I think there's a really amazing opportunity for us, for those who are small enough to innovate and agile enough to pivot and not greedy enough to like throw away our morals, to be able to use these powerful technologies for good and to make the world a better place rather than filling it with questionable, you know, practices and outputs. And I think there's a really good story here to change the story.
How often, and I want to get to you as well, but how often, Tyler, in your AI usage, do you go back and revisit it? Because we're seeing, I mean, what it was in 2022 is not what it is today. It's constantly changing. It's changing fast.
To revisit our like technology.
Yeah.
That would be a weekly, daily basis.
Okay.
Yeah, it is constant. And we're always ruling out, you know, new stuff that comes out. We're like, that's not as good. Or, oh, that's actually far superior. So, yeah, it's something you kind of have to stay up on. But it's also really fun.
Yeah. Andrea, how about you? Let's talk about AI.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think, you know, the game that we're making right now, you know, we started a couple of years ago. It's a game that we knew that we could make ourselves, and that I really wanted to have a hand in crafting all of it. And so I think we're in the place where it's important as indies to keep an eye on everything that's happening around, you know, to be agile and to see what opportunities there are in the future. But for us, we are kind of keeping an eye on how, you know, there's a lot of things that are constantly changing, a lot of unknowns around how AI can be used and how it should be used. And yeah, I think we're just learning.
Yeah. AI is a plague upon this earth. Look.
I can also plus one that.
Yeah, I'm not trying to yuck your yum. I think.
I need a few M dashes and emojis in there.
Right. I think you've said a lot that I agree with. Using it in a responsible way, sure. Have I asked Google a question about code and Gemini's given me the response and I'm like, okay, cool, great. Yeah, I have. Like, it can be useful. It's a powerful tool, and you can't put the genie back in the bottle. But it's coming with so many problems that this industry now has to face. Games being made by AI, like the art and the music and all that, like, that sucks, right? Like, we've gotten a ton of games that we've had to take down off like Roblox and stuff that's just Peak but remade quickly and dirtily with AI. And you know, it sucks to see because it's not. We don't want players to have that experience instead of the one made by us humans.
No Temu Peak.
No Temu Peak. We just the real thing's like $8. Just go get it. So you know, I strongly believe that like when you know, games are art and art's made by people, and AI getting like it has no ability to make art because that's fundamentally something it can't do because it's not a person. I play games partially because they're fun, but partially because I want to experience this creative work that's been made by someone else to understand their perspective on the world. And that's why we go to museums. That's why we listen to music. And that's part of why we play games. So AI, I don't think has a place in that. But yeah, we'll just all have to keep dealing with it, I guess.
And my response to that is plus 100 on everything. I do think that if you are going to use AI, it is simply a tool, and it absolutely does not replace the craft. You have to give your soul to the craft, especially as an indie. You are the one making the game. This is your game. This is a reflection of you and your personality, and it cannot be a reflection or a, you know, like, there's a word there. You know, a normalization across all the things that, you know, AI has been trained on and learned on. And there's, if you're going to use AI or look at doing AI, go deep, learn it well, and be responsible and like understand how it works as a tool and like leverage its power for good to help you become the best creator. But that's the biggest risk with AI as well. Like, software engineers will come to me, oh, you know, how should I use AI? And I'm like, sure, let it code gen for you, and then inspect every line of code, and anything you don't understand and you couldn't figure out or do yourself, like use it as a tool to explain it. Don't let it replace your craft. Don't let it make you lazy. But that's unfortunately like a slippery slope. It's a hard thing to be disciplined about because it's so easy to just let it do things, and you're like, oh, I'm an artist now. I prompted this really cool, you know, scene, and you know, as a programmer, I'm like, no.
Plus one.
All right, let's need to shower after that. I want to talk a little bit. We're going to change things up a little bit and talk about funding. Funding is a critical part of, obviously, you know, what keeps everybody going. And we've got some folks here that maybe at the beginning of their funding journey, you've all gone through the process. Tell us if you can give us a little bit of, you know, tips on the funding side of it, what to look for, and frankly, what to avoid.
Sure. So we've, you know, gotten funding in several different routes. When I was just starting out, it was mostly like my mom and, you know, paying my rent. So that's a big privilege on my part. But we would go to GDC and look for contract work. At the time, VR and MR was big, so we would look for little gigs we could do to, you know, fund our original projects.
The key flexibility. You guys were just looking for a hole to fill.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that was back then. I don't know what opportunities there are in 2025, again.
Sure.
But that's one way to do it. And eventually we found that route didn't give us the sustainability needed to pursue original projects. Like, obviously we want to make our own indie games and not just do contract work forever. So that's definitely a cycle you can get stuck in when you do that route, but it is flexible. So that's when we started to pursue publishers, you know, traditional indie game publishing. We went with Team 17 for our first game, Going Under, as AgroCrab. That's kind of when we started AgroCrab. We weren't really a studio before when we were just doing contract. And, you know, I can complain about that deal all day, but it did allow us to make a video game and ship it, which was what we needed in order to kind of establish ourselves as a studio. Like, hey, we can build things, we have fans, we have this creative voice. Even though it wasn't a huge commercial success, it was a stepping stone till the next round of funding, which was project-based funding. So this is basically publishing without the publishing. You're not going to get marketing, you're not going to get production support, you'll just get a bag of cash. And at the time, since we had felt so confident in our own marketing abilities, we thought that that was appropriate for us. I think when you're just starting out, probably go with a publisher who can handle that stuff for you. Or if you're not interested in that stuff at all, also maybe you need a publisher. But for us, they were able to give us a much bigger sum of money to grow the studio, and that was another crab's treasure. And then this next round, like I said, I wasn't able to get a bigger amount of funding, so I kind of don't know where that goes. And then we went to Korea and made Peak in a month, and then that's not really helpful to anyone, but now things are great.
Andrea.
Well, so I do think it's super important to call out like where your initial funding comes from. You know, so many indies have to start somewhere, and for me, it was like I said, I'd worked at Microsoft and I'd saved up money that let me survive for a bit of time trying to figure it out, trying to figure out the funding. So when we were working on Round Guard, you know, I had come from Microsoft. One of my last jobs there, I was working on the team, like the UX teams that were helping either developers who were making PC games, helping bring them to consoles, to like the Xbox, you know, controller schemes and things like that, or vice versa. And so I'd spent a lot of time thinking about how to be flexible, how to like design well for different platforms. Daniel Cook from Spryfox was one of the people who gave me really early advice on being an indie, and he had told me, you know, being there ready to be on whatever platform was out there whenever somebody was looking to start a new initiative and they had the money to throw at, you know, building up that portfolio. That's a great place for an indie to be who can be flexible enough to fill that gap. And so we were ready with Round Guard. You know, we were developing it as a PC title for Steam, but we were working on controller support. I had that in mind the whole time. Was thinking about how it could go on TVs, and then when Apple came to us and said, "Hey, can you make it mobile and can you do it in a few months?" We were like, hell yeah, we can. And we were able to do that. And that was because we were able to jump on that opportunity. We ended up with the Apple Arcade deal that was completely life-changing for us, and funded us through the rest of development, funded us through the rest of supporting Round Guard and into our next title. And so this time around, you know, we were in a good place, about a better nest egg than we had before. But, you know, the indie market is scary, and it's really hard to predict what is going to be successful. And we're not very, we are very risk averse people. We have a couple kids too, and, you know, it's just the two of us. And so we went looking for a publisher in large part just to split that risk. And so we got, you know, found somebody who gave us a great deal that we were able to, you know, be funded through development of this next title. And so, you know, I have big hopes for how it lands, but we're set up to weather the storm, whether or not.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Tyler.
This is a painful topic for me, but I'll keep it short. Basically, I would have gone indie long ago. That's where my heart's been, except that it costs money to, you know, again, mortgage, feed the kids, keep everyone clothed at school. It's kind of a law these days. So basically, I had to wait, and I had to build up my nest egg, working AAA, saving more money than my wife wanted to, and then, you know, when I finally left, spending more than my wife wanted to, of our savings, actually 401k. Don't necessarily recommend this, but this is what it was for us and then the last year and a half, raising in some of the worst market possible in terms of games. I think has been down 80% is what I've heard in is for fundraising. And yeah, so I think at the end of the day, you have to be flexible. You have to be ready to give a certain amount and then be ready to cut it off and like figure out how to pivot. So my co-founder and I both back to full-time employment while we, keep the lights on while we continue to work on this. And I do want to call out, like, we have had some amazing angel investors who've put some money in with the expectation that this was going to blow up, and that is hard to let them see us go through these growing pains because they still have that hope and that expectation. We're not going to spend any more of their money. We're like, okay, this is like our nest egg, so when we can come back at this, so that we can do well by them. And that's, I think, what's special. Like VCs, publishers, it's a business transaction. When you get family and friends investing, suddenly you are on the hook to be great, regardless of what's happening around you. And sometimes that means surviving and just turning it from a sprint into a marathon. And often I think that's where indie thrives, is we're the cockroaches. We can't be killed. And we're just going to keep going until it turns around for us.
Thanks, gang. All right, listen, we're going to, I'd like to do a little Q&A here. If we can bump up the lights and get the wireless mic out here. Thank you very much. If you can raise your hand if you have any questions for the panelists here. Why don't we go right over here first? We'll bring you a wireless mic. If you could just say your name and give us your question. And we only have about 10 minutes, so we'll get through as many as we can.
I'll make this really quick. My name is Joe Grieve. I just had a quick question regarding funding. Would any of you recommend doing something like a Kickstarter or a fundraising platform instead of going directly to a publisher?
I've never done it, so I don't know. It seems risky. It seems like a lot of work. I think it could be a good way to find your audience. You seem like you have experience here.
Oh, no, I don't have experience. I mean, I'm in the same place where I know I have seen it work for people, and I have heard just how much work it is to run a good Kickstarter. So I personally find it pretty intimidating, but definitely, if you can find people to tell you how they got it done.
We had a great session this morning on Kickstarter, and a following one with community. games@kickstarter.com is a great email to send out and begin a conversation. They will help you understand sort of all of the different, I'm not a Kickstarter person, but a good friend of mine is. They'll help you understand, what that landscape looks like. I think it's a great tool to come with a community to continue to build that community, continue to build momentum. Kickstarter has, in the past, had a reputation for a lot of, or at least for me, I backed a lot of digital games that never saw the light of day because games are hard and they take a lot of time. So I would treat Kickstarter more as like the last 5-10% of the road to get you, you should already have close to a playable that you can release and such, is my personal opinion. Various opinions may vary, but I think it's a good idea.
Great, thank you. Next question, right up here, and then.
Hi.
Hi.
I wanted to ask, part of survival, I believe, is continuing past rejection. I know that Andrea Roberts recently talked about having to shelve a project. What words of wisdom do you have for those of us that need to pick up the pieces after a failed project or something like that?
Oh, geez. I think, you just have to pivot. You just have to try something else, right? If something failed, you have to, recognize that, okay, something about this isn't working. So identify what that is, which is not easy. It takes a lot of soul searching for us. Well, we went to Seoul, but that was such a bad joke. But, we didn't really know what we did wrong. And we had to find out that, okay, well, this is not a project we were passionate enough about. This is not a sustainable work cycle because we had just come off of another Crab's Treasure and we were just in this endless grind of content and big game mentality. We needed to try something else, which was quick, dirty game jam, no hierarchy, no sprints, just go back to the fundamentals of why we love indie games. After doing that game jam, we ended up with Peak, but perhaps just as important, we ended up with a new mindset of how we can make games in a way that is more sustainable, not for a lot of reasons. It's faster, we make more interesting games, and we don't end the day feeling burnt out and uninspired
Thank you. Next question. Let's we can go right straight up in the middle here, and we've got probably after you may have room for one more, so we're kind of almost out of time. Thank you very much. Hi, what's your name?
My name's Owen, and I thought the conversation you were having about AI was really interesting, and as an artist, how you would toe the line between using it as a tool and maybe having it taking advantage of you as an artist and doing a lot of work for you. So insofar as you guys have used it, I was wondering if you could go a little deeper in your experience of being able to toe that line and not stealing away your artistry, but also using it to your advantage.
So I'm not an artist, so I shouldn't be using AI to make art. If my artists, I have found out that there's a few artists out there in the industry who secretly use AI to help fill in some things or for inspiration or things, but they can't say so because they'll become a pariah amongst friends and peers who are it's a very hot button subject. I think we're all figuring it out is the short answer, and we have to be very open and understand the nuance of when we should just maybe we don't go there, right? And I think training on other people's stuff is a no-go. But if all AI is trained on other people's stuff, so that's a really hard one. I should say most. But if at all possible, you can use AI as an enabling factor to push to push the artist's work forward. They get full compensation for that, et cetera. To me, that starts to become a little bit more okay, where this model is fully trained on this artist portfolio, and there's a reason that AI is involved in helping adapt. I don't know. Like I said, I'm not touching that one, the art itself with the 10-foot pole, because I still have no idea what I would do in that case. And also, you don't have the control. You don't get really beautiful scenes that you add the VFX and da-da-da-da. But
anybody else have anything?
I just don't think it's worth it right now to use it in art. There's just there's so many talented artists out there, and
100%.
Yeah.
All right.
And a lot of them are looking for work.
Yep, ready for work. We have a question? We can go something right up here, right over here. I don't know where the microphone is. Oh, okay.
Hello.
Hi.
So I feel like a good way to learn sort of what not to do is to take a really good kind of look at that. So if the three of you could share either the worst piece of advice you've heard or the least optimal decision you think you've made, I'd love to hear that as a place to learn from.
We're going to wrap it up with that, 'cause that's going to be put a button on it. So, Tyler, you want to kick it off? Nick, Andrea, who wants to take it first?
I have to think.
Okay.
I have a dumb, quick one. I made a mistake naming our last game Round Guard. We wanted to show it early on. We had an early prototype. We kind of threw some names at a wall, picked one really quickly, and stuck with it. It has a lot of SEO problems. It turns out that saying Round Guard game, there's a lot of games out there, including basketball and football, that have rounds and guards, and so plus a lot of people can't spell guard. So it was problematic, and we held on to it for all through development because it was I already printed the banners and stuff. It wasn't worth it. You can always change your marketing up until you launch the game. So anyway.
I want to say over-focusing on funding. If you can figure out how to bootstrap, or you can figure out how to let fundraising be a side project or a side quest that you you turn on fundraising mode, go at it for a couple of weeks, and then turn it off and get back to development. It's all about that final product. And if you let fundraising distract you too much, then the players, then nobody's happy, because the people who want to give you the money, they don't see the progress. The players who want to play your game, they don't get your game. So you're a developer, develop, and fundraising sometimes has to be part of the gig, but try to put a leash on it.
All right, Nick, want to bring us home?
I don't know. There's a lot. There's don't sim ship on all consoles at once and launch on PC also at the same time. Don't crunch. That guys, don't do that. Unless it's for yourself, then maybe you can crunch a little bit. I don't know. No, I don't know.
Well, you brought us to the bottom of the hour.
Yeah.
So,
there.
first of all, Nick, Andrea, Tyler, I want to thank you guys for your time and thank you for joining us. Hopefully, you learned a little bit about indie survival in 2025. Thank you again for joining us, and we'll see you guys next time. Enjoy Slice. Bye-bye, everybody.